Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the latest edition of Freethought Hour, the show where we have a guest. Normally, we would have my co-host, Tercia from South Africa, but she's not turned up. And there's always a puzzle as to why this might be. Do they have load shedding? Has this meant that her connectivity has gone down? Maybe she'll join in later. Let's wait and see. But meanwhile, we do have an excellent guest in the form of Daniel James Sharp. Here he is. How the devil are you, Daniel?
Lovely to be here. How are you?
Great. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you. I hope you are too. Yeah. So the reason that we know each other is because you got in touch. Was it? It might have been through my President at Atheism UK email address, or through one of our social media sites. I can't remember, but you asked. I think I was past your. Did you get in touch with the website? I was past your information as somebody who would like to attend the Changing Minds in Changing Times event that we staged in the Midlands in the end of September. So that's how I first became aware of you. You requested to come along. I can't remember who it was. It was Lawrence Krauss. That was it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was in touch with Lawrence Krauss. I've interviewed him previously, and I fancied coming along to the event, so I just got in touch with him. I'm glad that he passed my details on to you, because then I think you got in touch with me first, actually. I got an email from you not long after that, and not long after taking up a post as the assistant editor of the Freethinker.
That's right. Well, Lawrence got in touch with me following you getting in touch with him, because I was organizing the event.
Yes.
And he said you were coming along, you'd bought a ticket, and you were a journalist, and in return for your journalistic services, maybe we would give you a meal, because we had an offer of a meal for those who wish to stay on for that at the end of the presentations. And we were giving our celebrities a free meal. So you got added to that list. I hope you enjoyed your meal.
Yes, it was nice. Although I was a bit late to it, so I missed. They were just taking everything away just as I got to the buffet, but I still got some nice food. So
good. Yeah. So tell me, our usual first question in this sort of Freethought Hour interview situation, chat show, is how did you get to be the Daniel James Sharp that you are today? And in the case of a lot of people that we interview, they have got, especially if they're from America, they have got a terrible story to tell about how they were sucked into religion in their youth, and then subsequently they had to somehow tunnel their way out of it, and it's been traumatic, and they've had to go through PTSD recovery. I don't suppose you're like that, are you, being a Scot?
No, luckily I don't have quite as exciting. I don't know if exciting is the right word, but I don't have such a story. Although I was brought up, I would say, well, my dad was a big Protestant. He was into the Orange Order and the Queen and Rangers and all that stuff, and it never really took with me. But I did believe in Christianity for a while as I was growing up, and in fact I attended Scripture Union every Friday lunchtime at primary school, where we'd go. Some of us who, for some reason, chose to do this would give up our Friday lunchtimes to go and study the Bible with the pastor's son, I think it was, of the Pentecostal church in the town where I lived. So I was into it for a while in a very low key sort of way. And I think I kind of naturally just grew out of it. I was recommended The God Delusion by a friend who I'm still friends with, very good friends with. And that turned me into more of a militant sort of atheist. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have any bad experiences with religion, personal experiences. I did. I mean, I don't know if I should tell this story because it's slightly embarrassing. But
Oh, go ahead.
my youthful phase as a militant atheist, but I would still class myself as pretty militant. But in my very early days of that at school, we had church assemblies. The church would, come and give an assembly, or we'd go to a local church to hear the Easter sermon or whatever. And one day, once when they came to the school, so it was actually in the school, I decided to rebel by taking along a copy of the God Delusion and opening it up and reading it as the service went on. And a teacher ended up taking it off of me. So that's my story of rebellion.
That's the extent of your militancy. It's pale compared to the burning of witches on the stake.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Scotland, I mean, it's the same for the whole of Britain, but Scotland in particular, in the 1950s was, as recently as the 1950s, was one of the most religious countries in the world. Strongly religious, Protestant predominantly. And now it's among the most secular and among the least religious countries in the world.
Yeah. Well, I had a similar experience. I mean, my parents, I carefully chose them not to be theists. So they didn't take me to church except for weddings and funerals, when the family had an event. And actually, as a small boy, I got taken to the weddings, but not the funerals. They didn't think it was appropriate for me to know about death at that age. So I didn't really become aware of religion until I started going to school. And of course, as you were saying, it's still the law to have a morning assembly of a religious character in this country. And so that's when I met Bible readings, a hymn, and a prayer. That was the morning format. Yeah. But nowadays, very few schools actually obey that rule now.
Yeah, I think there are some differences between England and Scotland on this, but yeah, I mean, I think at high school at least, it was only at the end of terms around Easter holidays and Christmas holidays that we'd get that sort of thing. But I do remember in primary school, we had quite frequent religious services and hymns and singing and all of that. I can still picture the little hymn book in my head sometimes. I think I stole one. That was another act of rebellion. I stole one of the hymn books once.
Ooh, slapped wrist. So I can still remember the hymns and sing them. And when one of my daughters was in the school choir and they were taken to perform at Arundel Cathedral, which is our nearest cathedral. It's a Roman Catholic one, actually. Was it there or was it at Chichester? I think it might have been Chichester Cathedral, the Protestant version, Church of England version. So I went along in that congregation to support her singing in the choir, and I found myself fully able to join in the singing with a lusty voice because I knew all this material from way back when.
Yeah, I imagine I could do the same. Although it's been a long time since I've been in that situation, but I think if I was in that environment, I think I probably could dredge up a few hymns.
Yeah, there you go. Difficult to get rid of stuff that you are taught early on, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose that's why I do it.
Exactly. Yes. Who was it? There was some religious person who said, "Give me a boy of 7 or 8, and I'll make him into the man."
Yeah.
I can't remember who. But that's a famous quote. Somebody will probably provide that in the comments underneath when this goes public. Yeah. So that was your early life, but now you're in reporting. So you've obviously been through a process to get to that stage. What is this? If you obviously excelled at writing in your secondary school, then you went and get qualified, did you? And
Well, I'd always enjoyed writing and English at school. I ended up, well, it's a bit of a convoluted story in some ways, but I left school in 2012, and the next year my father died, and that threw me off of things. I was meant to start university in that year, and I did attend university for a little while, but ended up dropping out. Got a job at ASDA for a couple of years, then went back to university, this time Edinburgh, to study English and history, where I graduated from in 2021, and I had to miss a year of that because I was nearly killed by my appendix, which burst very badly and hospitalized me for weeks and forced me to take a year out. So the long way around, I finally managed to complete university, and I kept up my writing while I was there, and contributed to some student journals and magazines. And started contributing to some online magazines such as Areo Magazine, and I just continued from there, really. Freelance writing and journalism and that sort of thing. It's an interesting world, difficult to make headway in some ways, but
it is, and it's got harder, I think. 50 years ago, it would have been much more easy to break into journalism and even into independent journalism, I think. But now it's so much more competitive. So many more people are trying to get work in that field. Yeah. So you've had a bit of a rough ride, haven't you? There's never a good time in your youth for your father to die, and having a burst appendix, that must have been a bit of a nightmare. And while you were in hospital, were you visited by the chaplain? Did he come around and invite you to join him in prayer?
I don't believe so, but quite a lot of my memory from that time is hazy. So it's possible that somebody came along and I shooed them away, but I don't have any explicit memories of that happening.
Because when you were first applying, well, around about the time that your father died, when you were attempting your first go at university, I was actually in hospital having my heart operated on, and I did get a visit from the chaplain, and I told him politely that I wasn't a believer. I think it's disrespectful to try to proselytize the vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're preying with an E on victims, on people who are at their lowest, in hospital, in prison, when they're young. You know, this is
again, there's a reason for it.
It's not honourable. It's not an honourable reason.
No. It's similar to the deathbed visitors.
Yes,
people go along to people's deathbeds and try and convince them to accept Jesus or whoever it may be. Maybe not so much anymore, but I'm just thinking of the stories of Thomas Paine and how he was harassed on his deathbed by turbulent priests trying to convert him back.
That was his expression, wasn't it? Turbulent priests. Yes. That
was Henry Beckett, I think. Yes. Turbulent priest. Yeah. I don't know why it came into my mind.
So this has happened to a lot of people.
Not Henry Beckett, but Thomas Beckett. But it was Henry.
Thomas.
The second, right. I think the second. Who said that? Anyway.
Yeah. So this has happened to a lot of people. In fact, Christopher Hitchens, before he died, he predicted that news would come out that he'd converted on his deathbed. And it did, of course. Some people were claiming that as though it was something that he said that never happened. But there you go. There
was a book, Larry Taunton, who called himself a friend of Hitchens, but doesn't seem to like him very much, going by the book. And he debated Hitchens a few times, and he wrote a book called The Faith of Christopher Hitchens, where he claimed essentially that he didn't quite convert, but he was nearly about to convert before he died.
Well, there's money to be made, isn't there, from writing stuff like that? There are people who want to hear that sort of stuff and read it. Yeah.
Well, I think, lots of his friends came out and rejected that narrative, including Nick Cohen, the journalist, who this goes back to the sort of morbidity of religious vultures. Nick Cohen said, I emailed Hitchens' son to ask him if there was any truth to this, and he just thought he just didn't feel very comfortable that, okay, so some religious person is saying your father who died was going to convert on his deathbed. Why should I have to go to the son of a dead friend to confirm this because somebody's spreading these scurrilous rumors about him? But it's not untypical.
No, you're not thinking of writing a book of that sort, are you? You're not thinking of writing a book like that, are you? Journalists,
no. Most definitely not.
So I invited Emma. I've forgotten her surname.
Park,
yes. I invited her to join us. I only invited her yesterday, I think. So maybe she hasn't seen the email yet. But she obviously is not here. So maybe she'll be a guest on a future show.
Yes, I think actually I did mention it to her. I think this time was too late for her. So perhaps if you can organise another time with her, I'm sure she'd be able to do it. But
yeah. Well, we do fit in with our guests. Obviously, we record at any time for their convenience if necessary. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk to you about is your articles, because I read one of them recently. I looked at one of your articles in the Freethinker, and I've forgotten what it was now because I don't have a memory anymore, but it was very interesting, and I don't think I can get it on screen either because I've lost it now. But it was about Christopher Hitchens. Do you remember writing that article?
Pain, I assume.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. Thomas Paine and Christopher Hitchens, and because Hitchens admired Paine, didn't he?
Yes, enormously. That article was actually based on a talk I gave at a conference in last September in London on Freethought in the long 19th century. And I just wanted to compare Hitchens and Paine in terms of their style and beliefs, because, of course, Paine is the godfather of all freethinkers, and but in particular, Hitchens had a debt to him.
Yes, and followed in his footsteps.
Yes, indeed. And so I just wanted to explore that relationship and some of the differences as well between them. Hitchens, for example, wasn't keen on deism.
No.
And Paine, who knows, Paine would have been an atheist after Darwin and Einstein.
Yes, indeed.
All the rest of it, who knows? But yes, Hitchens regarded the stance of deism as belonging to the prehistory of the argument.
Yes. Well, certainly Darwin tipped the scales in the atheist direction. Yeah. And of course, even Einstein, as recently as that, was in favor of, or reportedly in favor of, what's his name's God?
Spinoza.
Spinoza, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Spinoza's God, which is a sort of deism, isn't it? It's nature being in control.
Yes, although technically pantheism, which I think Richard Dawkins called sex up atheism,
Yes.
and deism is watered down theism, which I think is has some truth to it.
Yes. Yeah. Part of the trouble here is people want absolute 100% answers, and so if they're theistic, they have their view of atheists being immoral, purposeless, God-hating, because that's what they would like us to be. They would really want us to be very opposite to them and militant as well. So we're back to that because they don't bother to ask us what our views are. They just put these labels on us and then beat us with their stick. But if they chose to ask us, they'd find out that we don't know, that we don't have any 100% answers to anything. But our doubt is more rational than their assertion that they have got the answers, and they're evidence free.
Absolutely.
I'll have my little rant.
Although I should say I have known a few believers in my time who I've always enjoyed disagreeing with. So yes, they're not all bad. They're not all
No.
peddling stereotypes and misinformation, to use a fashionable phrase or term. Some of them are quite interested and are willing to engage. Yes. I always enjoy that.
There's moderates and fundamentalists. Yes. Yeah. So, did you actually meet Richard Dawkins at the event that you attended? Did you actually get to speak to him and shake his hand or anything?
Yes, I did. I had met him before and exchanged a few emails with him before, but yeah, I did get a chance to shake his hand and get a book signed and get a photo and so on.
Great. Mission accomplished there then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the only one I didn't get to talk to really was AC Grayling, who left early, sadly.
Yes, he had to catch a train back to London. Yes, that's right. Well, hopefully, I'm trying to organize another event, and I'm not in a position to say that it's going to happen yet, because trying to organize these events is a bit of a nightmare. You have to try and persuade people that they can spare this time on that day, and several people, different calendars, they're all busy, so it's not an easy thing to do. But
I should say very well done for the Birmingham event. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to get all those four great speakers all willing to come on a certain day that they have free to come and talk.
Well, thank you.
So I think it was a great event, and kudos for the organizational skills that went into it.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. It was the second, we'd done one in London back in June. I'm not sure whether you were aware of that, but we did one in Notting Hill in a small theatre called the Tabernacle. And that was very good too. We had not entirely the same cast. We had Lawrence, Richard, and we had Sophie Scott, who is director of the Faculty of Neuroscience at UCL. And we had Blay Whitby, who's recently retired from Sussex University. He's an ethicist. And we also had the president of the Secular Society, Keith Porteous-Wood. So we had five speakers on that occasion. And you can see all the video of this, because, of course, we do try to video these events. And that's all uploaded now on Atheism UK YouTube channel. So go there and see what you missed.
Yeah, I'll have to look up the London event. But I can certainly recommend the Birmingham talks. Very, very good.
Well, I'm uploading those videos right now. In fact, I've recently made, because there's 4 of them, the AC grading one. Unfortunately, that's audio only because we didn't get the camera working in time to catch all of that. That one's uploaded. Then there was Mariam Namazi. That one's uploaded and visible publicly. Then Lawrence Krause's one is at the moment only available to our membership. It's a perk. We give them an early bird link, but that will be publicly visible next week. And then the final one would be, well, you saw this. It was the chat between Richard and Lawrence that we've recorded for Richard's Poetry of Reality channel podcast. Yeah. And we've sent that to him. I don't think he's put it up yet, but you'll be able to see that all over the place. Because Lawrence,
I think it is up. I'm sure.
Have you seen it? Yeah. Because I was looking for it yesterday and I couldn't find it. But yeah, that's going to be there. It's going to be on our channel, and it's going to be on the Origins Project channel too, in the very near future. Yeah. So the one I'm trying to organize is, well, I'm calling it Hitchmas.
Oh yeah.
Because Christopher Hitchens died just before Christmas, 15th of December, in fact, 12 years ago. So it seems to be fitting to hold an event and a tribute to him because of his, sterling work as an anti-theist. He was much more militant. He called himself an anti-theist, not just an atheist, didn't he? And so I'm trying to get that one organized. I'm trying to get people to the ducks in a row, trying to get that to happen. And it will be, assuming it comes to fruition, it will be in Brighton. So there you go. I don't know whether you want to come all the way down from Scotland to attend another of our events.
Yeah, so I'll keep an eye on that, and yes, potentially I could. That would be quite fun.
15th of December. I'll confirm, obviously, when it's when I've got all the boxes ticked, and there will be. We're not going to use Eventbrite this time. We're going to use another e-ticketing company, which is cheaper. And anyway, I will be publicising it, and you will have an opportunity to come. There will be a meal. It will be more festive, bearing in mind the time of year. It might be turkey-based. And so, yeah, cross your fingers that I can make that one happen.
Yeah. Although famously, you might want to find the clip where Hitchens sings an anti-Christmas song. He was not a fan of Christmas.
I'm not aware of this. Tell me more. What can you give me about this? Can you put it in the private chat, maybe, if you've got some information that I need?
Yeah, I'll search up and find it for you.
Yes, please. Because I am thinking of, because of the time of year, I'm thinking of making it quite seasonal, quite more of a party, because as you know, we already have a meal. We do have music. In fact, you were present when I played a clip of Dawkins' song, which he didn't write the music, but he wrote the lyrics, or he wrote the speech, or he delivered the speech off the cuff that the lyrics were taken from. In fact, this is not generally known yet, but I've grabbed his speech from the original event, which was back in the early years of this century, 2003 or somewhere. Back when mobile phones could barely capture video, So this speech was delivered in response to the question from a member of the audience it wasn't Liberty University, but a neighboring university in, I think, South Carolina. And Dawkins was touring and giving his presentation, mostly to hostile audiences, and this woman was at the microphone in the Q&A, and she said, "What if you're wrong?" And then Richard went into this wonderfully eloquent response to that question. And my friend in Australia, who's a musician, grabbed his speech and wrote music for it, turned it into a song. And that was what I played a clip of in Birmingham in the Edgbaston Midlands Arts Centre. So things are developing, and the next stage of that project is to take the audio of Dawkins' original delivery and auto-tune it so that it sings. So his voice will then sing his song. Wonderful what you can do with computers these days, isn't it?
Yes, I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping
a new festive tune.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I can get that together for this event that I'm hoping will come off in Brighton on the 15th of December. The hold up at the moment, I've already got AC Grayling in support and Lawrence Krauss in support. And the hold up at the moment is Richard himself, who has not responded favorably yet. But Lawrence is trying to persuade him to come to this event. And assuming that he's agreeable, we will then attempt to get the other two surviving members of the Four Horsemen of New Atheism on screen from their US locations so that they can have a chat, two screens maybe, Sam Harris, Dan Dennett, Richard in a chair on the stage, so they can have a chat and reminisce about times they spent with Christopher Hitchens. That's the plan.
That'd be a wonderful thing. Yeah, absolutely.
If we can bring it off, it'll be fabulous. Yes. So
keep me abreast of any developments. I'd love to attend that if I can.
I sure will. I have your email, so no problem there. So how do you see things developing? Because I know as a journalist, you've got a voice. You can say words and they will be read. And I don't know about you, but I'm concerned. And I'm concerned about the rise of Muslim hatred. And you might have thought, as for those of us who attended Mariam Namazi's powerful presentation, you might have thought that it's something that happens in other countries, where they have strict rules. Countries like Iran, Afghanistan, where the Taliban are in control now. But the thing is, we have now so many pockets of Muslim immigrants, and fundamentalists in those areas are trying to bring Sharia to the UK. What's your view?
Well, I think it's a bad thing, is the basis of my view. But I think the most recent visible manifestation of that, of hardcore fundamentalist Islam in Britain has been the rallies in support of Hamas. Or, well, supposedly in support of Palestine, but usually actually in support of Hamas, and cries of jihad. And huge increase in anti-Semitic hate crimes in London, shot up by like more than 1,000%, I think. And in large part, that's due to Muslim anti-Semitism being expressed more openly with the recent events.
We've got laws against. Why are our laws not being prosecuted sufficiently? I saw a video today of this obviously ethnically English man in a shop doorway where there was a support Pakistan, free Pakistan protest going on in the street. And he said to camera, because it was outside the Stockport radio offices, and he said to camera that Muhammad, when he was 50 or 52, married Aisha when she was 6 and conjugated with her when she was 9. And he immediately got mobbed by the protesters who were advocating free Pakistan. And the police came along and stopped the fracas, but they seemed to arrest him as the cause of the trouble.
Well, I hadn't heard of that news. I hadn't seen that. That's that's shocking. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a bit of a free speech absolutist, so I wouldn't arrest even people who cry for jihad on the streets. But if anyone in that situation should have been arrested, it should have been the people who perhaps were threatening that man with violence and menacing him. It's again, it's not an uncommon type of story. We've seen Batley Grammar School and the scuffed Quran, things like that. And that's perhaps one of the worrying things, is that the law, or the agents of the law, tend to be the agents of these new blasphemy codes. They somehow have been turned into morality police in some ways, doing the beck and call of some pretty unsavory Islamists.
Yes.
Not just to the detriment of non-Muslims, but to the many Muslims, secular and liberal Muslims, and of course ex-Muslims, who don't associate themselves with those types of people, who dislike them very much, just as much as anyone else, I would imagine.
Yes, indeed. Well, I have one of those on my Global Atheist News show. I don't know whether you watch Global Atheist News, but it's a show that goes out on a Saturday. Well, usually on a Saturday. This week there was so much religious news, I had to do another one on Tuesday. But, I try to keep it to about 20 minutes. I think that's probably the maximum that people are prepared to watch for a news show. So it takes about 8 or 9 items of news to fill up that space with video clips and so on. And I have recently recruited Momus Najmi, who is an ex-Muslim Brit, who is concerned, more so even than me, and probably more so than you, although you're on the very free speech end of this, rather than recognizing hate speech and stopping people from uttering those.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Those obscenities or blasphemies or whatever. But Momus is very concerned that we're being soft touch in this country, and we're letting atrocities go by, especially if they're Muslim ones. We're tolerating them too much.
Well, I would certainly agree with that, in the sense that we shouldn't listen to the people who wanted the Batley grammar teacher fired, who hounded him. He's still in hiding, I believe.
I know. Yes.
Those people should just be rejected completely and not listened to, and if they go further, then they should be arrested. But we're pretty spineless when it comes to religion, particularly the Islamic religion at the moment.
So what can we do? What do you see? How do you see the future panning out? And what sort of action can we take to? I mean, I think that we have a precious country here. It's not perfect, but we're caring. We have schools for everyone, health service for everyone, unemployment benefit, housing. We try and do the best by our citizens. I'm not going to say subjects, by our citizens. And as a result, we are a desirable destination. We have people trying to come here. In fact, only tonight I had, because in my role as president of Atheism UK, I get these emails from people who want me to help them. And this particular one, if I can find that to call up to bring onto screen here, I'm not going to be able to do it, I suppose. It would take me a month of Sundays to find this one. But in a gist, he's an ex-Muslim, and I think he's in Italy. But he's written to me to see if I can help him, because in his community, he's a pariah. You know, he can't say anything against Islam. If he does, then people jump on him like a ton of bricks. You know, and he's looking to come to. I mean, I can't help him, unfortunately. I don't have a magic wand or any money for that sort of support, that sort of immigration. But he sees Britain as a sort of beacon of enlightenment. And you, as a Scot, you pretty much invented that, didn't you? Enlightenment.
Yeah, I'll take the credit.
Yeah, I should. Yeah. So what we have a civilization level that has taken us hundreds of years to achieve. No wonder everybody wants, well, a lot of people from worse countries where they don't have any rights respected, where misogyny is rife, where homophobia is rife. They want to come here. And what are we going to do?
Well, immigration is perhaps slightly too big a topic to deal with here, and I don't know. Although I would say that when it comes to immigration, if we helped more people like the person who got in touch with you, rather than people who are known to have sympathies for more extreme versions of Islam, then that's what we should do. Maybe we need to be a bit more precise in screening people who come to the country. Although in general I am pretty pro immigration, but yeah, I think anyone who is known to have been, say, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood and who wants to immigrate here should have to go through a lot more hurdles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm in favour of immigration. We don't have enough people of working age to fill all the needs that we have in this country. So yes, we do need immigrants, but I don't think the solution is necessarily in that shape. I think we've got to somehow get the message back to the countries where the horrors are being committed, to get them to clean up their act. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the reasons that I have hope for that is I don't think the governments themselves are likely to do much. The government of Iran or Saudi Arabia or what have you. But the people of those countries, increasingly, a lot of them are increasingly secular. Some of them even atheists, as Ibn Warwick wrote in his book a few years ago, Leaving the Allah Delusion Behind. There's been a massive growth in non-belief in the Islamic world, people who are fed up of theocracy. There was, I think, in the book, Warwick reports this girl, I think, who she cheered on 9/11. She was an Iraqi girl. She cheered on 9/11. And then, of course, the US came to Iraq. But then she saw what the Mahdi, I think it was the Mahdi army, had done to her country. And she said, now I hate religion. So, they're their own worst enemies, really. And, the vast majority of the population of Iran is secular and liberal and wants a secular democratic nation. So I think doing what we can to encourage those people is probably the best way. And that's why I have hope, because there has been such a growth in
yes, there has
in those people in the past few years, decades.
In India too, there's a big growth against religion. Yes, people are becoming more rational. We've got to promote critical thinking, get them to question their bosses, their religious bosses. Yeah.
I think also what one could do here more immediately in Britain is stop treating so-called community leaders as the representative of all British Muslims. You get imams, conservative imams, who are put up as the spokesperson of the Muslim community of Leicester or wherever, and they tend to be the most conservative and usually male people in that community, and they don't represent British Muslims, all British Muslims, but for some reason they're given some legitimacy as a spokesperson, and that's how they hang on to power and get away with things like Batley Grammar School or dragging an autistic boy through the mud for scuffing a Quran. Because they listen to those people.
I reported on one of those in the Midlands just before that event that we've been talking about, when there was an imam who is the head of education at one of the madrasas in Leicester, was it? Somewhere near there. And he had just made a video on YouTube about how what was the thrust of this? Women were subordinate to men, and it was really horrendous what he had said. And I can't remember what I reported now, but I know that it followed from Mariam Namazi's presentation, because she had shown us all these horrors that are going on abroad. And I thanked her for her speech. And then I said, but it's not just abroad, this is happening here too. And I recounted that incident, which I can't remember now. But if you look through the archive of Global Atheist News, my weekly show, where now I share it with Momus, who does the first 4 or 5 items, because it's usually the fundamentalist Muslims who have made news in a week. So he gets the report on the Islamist on the Islamic news. You've got to be careful about how you use these words, haven't you?
Yes, it's terminology can be confusing.
Yeah, and deliberately so. I mean, they've made it to be that. They've tried to conflate religion with race, religion with government, and all sorts of things that we wish were not mixed up together. We'd like to keep them separate in our secular society.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the silly Islamophobia word.
Yes.
And the definitions that have been proposed for that.
I've
always said a term like anti-Muslim hatred or bigotry or prejudice, those are real enough. There are people who hate Muslims as people and who want to do them harm. And that is a bigotry that should be condemned and fought. But Islamophobia is not usually used to condemn those kind of people. It's usually used to prevent any sort of criticism of Islam. Showing the Prophet Muhammad cartoons as Islamophobic.
Yes. You can't do that because it's racist, is the thinking behind it. Yeah. Well, it's not racist, I'm afraid. Race is one thing, religion is something else.
Absolutely.
You don't have to bond the two together. You can't avoid your ethnicity, but you can avoid your religion. So there's a separation there.
Just I was just thinking a little bit more about what can we do, and this is slightly further afield, and but it's just something I wanted to put out there. I've been thinking recently, because I take an interest in Iran and the Iranian secular movement and revolution that's been going on there for a while. And given that the recent attack by Hamas upon Israel and everything that's going on there now, Iran almost certainly was behind that attack. Hamas are their proxies, or Hamas might even be better described as an arm of the Iranian state. I think democratic nations should give, I mean, they should have done long before, but give proper material support to, and Hezbollah, and
Hezbollah too,
should give proper material support to the Iranian dissidents with an aim of having them topple the regime. that would knock out a theocratic enemy, and which it supports people like Hamas and Hezbollah, would also knock out an ally of Russia. So it'd be a very good thing to do, I think. And I think, no, I was going to say easily achievable, not easily achievable, but it's certainly something that should be pursued more than it has been. Although I was in favor of that strategy, if you want to call it that, simply on moral grounds long before anything happened in Israel. So that's my little idea for foreign policy strategy. If anyone wants to take me up on it.
I can see that could have legs, that idea, yes. So I'm not sure how it would be affected. Are you proposing to slide some money into some of these more moderate people that are against the Iranian government?
Yeah, I mean, there's various ways it could be done. I mean, one idea perhaps is it would have to be America primarily, so I'll just say America as a stand-in for the West or democratic nations. Could gather all of these sort of exile opposition groups together, create a coalition, a grand council of Iranian dissidents who are given funding and money and assistance to strategize on how to effect a revolution in Iran.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Of the people, people actually in Iran as much as possible.
So you're saying we should try and help expatriate Iranians to
but only because they're the most available,
most accessible. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of interesting things here. You know, Omid Jalili, the British Iranian comedian actor. He's been in a Bond film and so on. And he's on tour at the moment, going around with his comedy show. And he had to pull a show at Market Raise. I can't remember where, but he was scheduled to appear last Saturday, and they had to cancel it because he had death threats aimed at him. And this is a guy who was born in London of Iranian parents, so he's British, you know. So this is what's happening. The tendrils of the fundamentalist Muslims are spreading out to where they've got these ghettos of their expats. Why shouldn't we be doing it the other way?
Why did he get death threats? Did he criticize?
Yeah, he's expressed anti-Hamas opinions on his Twitter account, on his X account. Yeah. So they've targeted him for that because he's put up videos showing some of the atrocities, because he has contacts in Iran, in Israel, because of his relatives, you know. So he's got videos of people who have recorded some of the Hamas atrocities that have happened, and that hasn't hit the mainstream media, of course, because these things are too horrible to watch. Yeah.
No, I mean, we could get into the Israel-Palestine issue at length, but I mean, the core thing that I would say on that is that it's perfectly possible to support the two-state solution and support Palestinians, and to be very, even highly critical of Israel and its actions, whilst not supporting people like Hamas, who are not interested in having a two-state solution or having any kind of peaceful resolution. They simply want to kill as many Jews as they can and continue to immiserate and steal aid from Palestinian people, and commit atrocities against Palestinians as well as Israeli Jews. They're not friends of the dispossessed; they're enemies of the dispossessed.
Yes, indeed. Well said. Yeah. I'll let that sink in for a bit, because it was, nice words. So we're coming to the end of our hour, and I'm quite strict about that because when I'm fishing for guests, I don't want them to think that I'm going to trap them for 3 hours when they've agreed to one. So I'll think in terms of winding up the show in the next few minutes. But I do want to tell people that next week we have another interesting guest in the form of looking at my calendar. No, it's not on my calendar. I haven't updated my calendar with that. So where have I been chatting to him? Probably in Facebook Messenger. So I meet a lot of people there. So yeah, Benjamin Creevy. Now, I don't know his religious history yet, but with a name like Benjamin, makes you wonder. And he's going to be on the show on Saturday next week, and we will talk to him. I've got a pre-show meeting scheduled with him on Tuesday. I'll find out more about him there. But I think he's a kindred spirit because we bumped into each other in an evolution versus creation media site, and he's actually in Birmingham, so I don't know whether he attended our event. He could have done. There you go. So that's the plug for next week. Right. Do you have anything you want to plug apart from your Freethinker contributions, Daniel?
Well, yes, I suppose I've got a lot to plug.
Okay. Tell me, I'll make a banner.
Substack page. I'll just pop it in the chat there.
Okay. So first of all, I'm going to put the Freethinker as.
Yes, I was going to say that last, but not least. The Freethinker.
That's your official job. Yeah.
Yes. You can subscribe to the newsletter. Follow the Freethinker on Twitter, just at Freethinker Mag. Websites, just freethinker.co.uk.
Right, let me add that to the
check
banner.
It out.
So at freethinker.co.uk. Well, it's not a capital F, isn't it? It's just a small f for Freethinker. Okay. Scroll that. There you go.
Yeah. Well, just without the at for the web address, but at Freethinker Mag on Twitter or X. It's bold now.
Okay. Right. Modified again. At Freethinker Mag. So what am I writing now? At Freethinker Mag, all one word?
All one word, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Perfect.
Yep. And then there's your, which you already sent me in the private chat, your personal Substack.
Yep. And I'll just leave that one because that you can find other things like my Twitter and web page on that. So
I see. They're all there. Great. Okay. Well, there you go, people. You heard it from us first, that you can find all Daniel's exposed social media sites where he gives us his thoughts at that Substack address. Great.
Been lovely.
Thank you very much. This is the end of the show. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.